Hello everyone, we're back for our second video in the voter promotion series. I'm Henry, this is John, and in our last video we discussed, briefly touched on it, the 4 different models for voting, and we want to delve into those, elaborate on them a bit more. And the first one we're going to talk about is the sports model. And fire away there, John.
Yeah, the sports model, like the Red Sox and the New York Yankees, and fans who will never change. So the sports model is the 2 teams or the 2 parties, the Democrats versus the Republicans. And if you play the voting game by the sports model, you're just loyal to your team. You don't have to pay much attention to anything. Just that, you always like the Republicans or you always like the Democrats, and you vote for your team. And, the point about this approach to voting is that it really discourages voting, because a lot of people think that we don't get anywhere if you're just loyal to your team. That what you really need to do if you're serious about electing the best people to office, you have to pay attention to policies and platforms and programs and the candidates and what their records are. So if the way this game is going to be played is you're just going to choose your team and vote for your team, then a lot of people feel like, well, what's the point of participating in that? That's nonsense. That's not democracy. It's like going to a game.
It is, very much so. It's this method of voting. It's very deep-rooted, just like, we call it the sports model because using the team analogy, I've been a New York Yankee fan since 1976. It hasn't been the same players all the way through, but I'm loyal to the team, good years, bad years. I don't care who the players are. I'm still going to watch them versus the Mets or the Red Sox or any other team. But when you're talking about politics, there should be a little bit more thought to that. But many people, they're just loyal to that. Well, I know I'm not going to vote Republican, or I know I'm not going to vote Democrat. I've always voted this way. No, I don't have time to look at the issues. I've got this going on, I got that going on. But that's the way a lot of people look at it, and that's why they stay with this type of voting.
Yeah, it's just like saying, well, I'm a Republican, or you say I'm a Democrat, and I don't need to do anything else. I just go and vote for my team. Now, to me, the important point about this is, again, this is a system that discourages a lot of people from voting. The other number 2 model is even worse. That's the business model. And the business model is where elections are really controlled by money, by small businesses and by big corporations that make big donations. And elections are run as though it's a game for the rich only.
Yeah, it is. And you'll see how that can play into when you've got big money interests financing these super PACs. They're also playing on people's attitude toward voting with the sports model. People loyal to just one type of party, not paying attention to issues. So knowing this, a lot of people, the business interests, they will exploit that, and they will fund these candidates and super PACs. And it's not so much about what they want to do for us as Americans, it's what they want to do for themselves, how they can enrich themselves, because with all of this money going into campaigns and PACs, it makes it difficult for candidates to say, well, I've taken millions in dollars in campaign money. It's going to be hard for me to say, no, I'm not going to show a little bit of favoritism to certain policies you as a businessman want.
Yeah, and one way of briefly defining the business model is that with the business model, politics and elections are regarded as a business expense. Yeah, if you're in business, you need to spend money on politicians. You need to make donations, sometimes very large donations. And if you really want to take a good look at how discouraging this model can be, you just take a look at the fact that if a corporation gave, say, $1 million to a particular candidate, and there's this understanding that there's this expectation that when elected, or if elected, that this candidate is going to vote favorably on any action that's in the interest of the company, why is that not a bribe? It certainly operates like a bribe, and it actually operates almost like buying your own candidate, buying your own congressional representative or state legislative representative. That's the business model at its worst, and it discourages voting because a lot of people see this influence of money, and it's a very negative, gives you a very negative sense that politics and elections is a game for the rich. I'm just an ordinary person. Why should I waste my time voting?
Exactly. Now, with the business model, all this money going into PACs and into campaigns, there has to be an infrastructure that it's funneled through, and a lot of this infrastructure is based within the next model, the advertising model, utilizing different election structures, which are PACs, but also utilizing the money to hire celebrities, sports figures, movie stars, recording artists as spokespeople for different candidates, different political opinions. So you're seeing right now, all three of these are inexorably linked together: sports model, business, and advertising. And it goes to what you were saying. It just discourages people not only from voting, but it also will discourage people that may want to get into politics, but they don't have the money. They feel that the big machine that's already available for Democratic candidates and Republican candidates is just too overwhelming to overcome. So it kind of keeps things business as usual as far as politics go.
Right, and the advertising model is basically the same thing as advertising of products. In other words, candidates, if they're serious about getting elected, they're going to hire consultants, managers, publicists. In other words, all these people who are good at selling, just like all advertisers will present themselves and earn their pay by selling your product, whatever it is. And so the candidate is our product, and we're going to sell it, and we're going to sell the candidate, and we're going to emphasize anything positive, and if there's anything negative, we're going to do our very best to minimize it or bury it or conceal it.
That's true.
And so the advertising model, once again, another model, when voters and people see this or have this sense that what's going on is that it's like theater, it's like they're trying to create the best-selling candidate, people lose interest. Why should I waste my time voting when the one who spends the most money or who has the best publicist is the one who's going to win?
Exactly. And in all of this pageantry and money going back and forth and advertising and celebrities and making it a popularity contest, the issues, they're very rarely mentioned, they're very rarely covered. It's who has the best story, or who's the best looking, or who can spend the most money to send you stuff in the mail, or to be up on prime time with their ads.
Yeah, and we can move from here on to what, in a sense, is the worst form of political theater. The fourth model is the seesaw model. And of course, the seesaw, everybody knows what a seesaw is. You just go from one side to the other, and you're just exchanging. This for 2 years, this party will be in power in the sense that they have the most legislators, or they have the governorship and the legislature in their hands, and it's their turn to have the upper hand. And the worst of the seesaw model is these mutual accusations. When the Democrats or the left is in power, they attack the right, and they have hearings and they have investigations, and it gets reversed when the other party's in power. Then it's turned around, and the other party is investigated and subject to hearings and accused and so on. And so we just listen to these two political parties act like seventh graders, as some critics have said that. Politics is like a food fight.
It's very true. But at the end of it, we're the ones that's getting the food on us. We're not getting anything. We're not getting anything done. Nothing is getting done. It's all the accusations, but what is being passed? What laws are being, coming out of committee and being brought to the floor? What business is going on within both chambers of Congress? There are things that we all need as Americans, whether Republican, Democrat, Independent, what have you. But what is getting done? What are you doing?
Right. So our focus here, our main point, which in talking about voting as these four models, is to emphasize how people get discouraged. Instead of blaming individual people for not voting, we need to see that the fault is in the system. It's in the people who run the elections, and it's in the political parties, because basically what they're doing is they make it look like politics is a game for the rich. It's like polo. Right. Or it's like high-end real estate. It's like people who buy skyscrapers and businesses and sell them and buy and sell them. I mean, that's what the political class is, and so I don't count. Why should I vote? And we want to turn that around. We want to do voter promotion. We want to talk about how people are important. And there's a long list of suggestions and recommendations, and a couple that we will talk about here briefly, and talk even much more in the next video, the third video. But two that we can talk about right now are mandatory voting, or compulsory voting, and ranked choice and runoff votes, elections. And Henry has done some more research than I have, so take it over.
Certainly.
Henry.
Okay, ranked choice voting. I don't know how many of you have heard of that. It's easy to find information online about it. But basically what it is, instead of just having two candidates to choose from, say like you have 4 candidates, and instead of just choosing just one of them, what can happen is, what will happen with ranked choice voting is you rank them. If there's 4 choices, this is my first choice, this would be my second choice, third choice, fourth choice, and so on, depending on how many candidates. But for this example, 4 choices. So say like after the first go around, choice 4 didn't garner enough votes, that's gone. We move on to the second choice. The goal with this is to get a majority of have a candidate to have a very clear majority of 51%. We do not stop the voting until it's at that. This is also called instant runoff voting, and as compared to the way runoffs are handled now, you'll have 2 candidates. They've been voted on. Not a clear-cut winner, and then they have to do a runoff. That's separate election. It's more time. It's more money. With ranked choice voting, it's handled one time, right then and there. What ranked choice voting also does, it encourages more candidates to join the field. It also it creates a situation where people just don't have to feel either or. People will feel that their vote counts more for something instead of just like, well, my guy didn't get in. But if you have different choices, that'll work out better. It also will force within the government for people to form coalitions. So instead of just having, with the seesaw model, Democrats are in power, Republicans is no good, Republicans in power, Democrats is no good in the seesaw model, it will encourage more coalitions between parties or between people that are running together. You'll get a more cohesive type of government. And they have found that in places where it's done. Ranked choice voting, the history in the United States, it hasn't been widespread, but there are 2 states that are using it, Alaska and Maine. And within those states, they use it not only for their statewide elections, they use it for their presidential elections. And it has worked very well. So that is one of the things we would like to see happen, or at least investigated as an option to encourage more, not only voter participation, but a good type of participation where people feel, yes, my vote counts. Maybe the first one doesn't get in, but maybe my second choice will. That will also encourage people to investigate the candidates more, move a little bit away from that sports model and be more participatory within, how they choose candidates and how they vote. There's 2 big criticisms of it. One, it's too complicated. The argument against that is, what's more complicated than spending a whole bunch of money and time and effort on an election, and you come down, you don't know who won, and then you got to have a separate election another time. It's more money. This, it's handled one time. It's simple. It's easy enough to teach people how to do it, to get people used to it. The other big criticism goes back to what we've been saying all along. A lot of times, the 2 parties, they don't favor it. They seem to be against it when in a specific election their party was disadvantaged for it. So that's, for the voting public and those of us that want more voter promotion instead of voter suppression, that's not a concern. I don't think so. Do you?
Well, these ranked choice voting and runoffs, of course, are both methods for running elections where the intent is to either achieve majority rule or at least move closer to it. Because this is our theme, that our election system does not give us majority rule, and this is what we're supposed to get according to our Constitution, and this is what democracy means. And so the question we keep trying to address is, what are the different things that we can do so that each candidate who actually wins and takes the power of government into their own hands is someone who has gotten at least 51% of the electorate. Not 51% of the people who voted, because that's not the same thing as 51% of the electorate, which is often a significantly larger number, a much larger number of people. So we have those methods. Now, I happen to favor personally compulsory voting and mandatory voting, but especially if it's combined with what we have talked about as the none of the above option. And apparently this has been done. It's been done in other countries, and it's been done in I guess it was the state of Nevada.
The only state, in the union is Nevada.
Nevada. Yeah. And that means you either there's a list of candidates for an office, and at the bottom there's a box or a circle that says none of the above, or it could say something like none of the candidates listed here, none of the parties listed here. And so that way, if you're required by law to vote and you feel like that's an imposition, well, this becomes much less of an imposition because it's participation, and your participation, instead of choosing a candidate, is to say, I don't like any of them. I don't like this system, So the election, in a sense, it becomes automatically a poll. And you need to keep in mind, you know what? What's the difference between an electorate where 40% of the people say, I don't like any of these candidates, and 10% say, I don't like any of these candidates? I think it'd be reasonable to conclude that the one where only 10% are saying none of the above, that must be a better system. There must be more candidates that people really want, and it must be a system that encourages people to vote and to take voting seriously. Anyway, I favor mandatory with, as long as you have the none of the above options. And I just want to emphasize at this point that, you know, we're not saying this is the right way, this is the wrong way at this time, because that we don't feel that that is going to be effective to promote interest and discussion about voter promotion as opposed to voter suppression. These are a couple of suggestions we've discussed in this video. In the next video, there's a long list of other methods that can be tried, all directed toward the goal of getting majority rule. And then after, in our fourth video, talk about a really powerful suggestion or method, which would be a constitutional amendment to take power that the Congress already has and enhance that power so that they can actually influence the states to change their election systems to assure that the candidates that are sent to the Congress got 51% of the vote. And this should be done, of course, at the state level, for state legislators, for the governor, and for anybody who's elected at the state level. Elections are the responsibility of each state. So if you're concerned, keep in mind, you're concerned about the states and what they do and don't do, because they're the ones who can improve our election system without any guidance or influence from anybody else. They can improve the system, they can change it, because that's where the power is over elections. It's at the state level. So if you are going to join in this effort to resist voter suppression with voter promotion, we are all trying to get our states to make some changes.
Exactly, and like I said, and like we've both said before, these are just suggestions as everyday citizens we're throwing out to you. And you know, drop us a line. You know, we're on YouTube. Express what you feel about it. I know, and you know, John has slowly convinced me of the merits of possibly having a mandatory vote. But I know when people, especially, you know, those of us here in America, we hear anything mandatory, compulsory, we get a little, you know, not so much. But the research shows that it does happen. No one, wherever it's done in many different countries. There's, I think the last count that I read was 27 different countries. And it ranges anywhere from, you know, just small fines, which a lot of times are not even enforced and things of that nature. But the biggest thing in what I found in these countries more than that is they're trying to encourage exactly not only a greater voter turnout, but more people just participating and being interested in our government. We get a lot of benefit. We don't think so, but we get a lot of benefit. We get infrastructure, we get Social Security, we get a lot of things from the government. It's the least I think we can do to vote. But I would like to, I'm sure John would like to hear your thoughts on these, and we can even go in depth to it in a chat, or if you want us to cover something, give you something more in depth about a specific topic, let us know. I feel, you know, we've learned from each other, and I'm sure we can learn even more from those of you that are watching this. Okay, so I think we completed our volume 2 or our second chapter. I think we have. And our next chapter 3 will be a discussion of about 8 or 9 possible
recommendations for people to think about to improve our election system. Thanks a lot for listening again.
Till next time.